Hello everyone, welcome to today's presentation. I'm excited to have you here as we explore the important topic of disaster and emergency management. On this first slide, you'll see the title of our presentation. We'll also touch on some key areas we'll cover, including strategies, planning, and response efforts. So, let's get started and dive into the world of managing emergencies effectively. Let's take a look at the contents of this presentation. On this slide, we have an overview of the key topics we'll be discussing today, starting with disaster management, which is the overarching theme here. We will explore major man-made disasters and natural disasters, understanding their differences and impacts. We will then move through the various phases of a disaster, including preparedness, response, recovery, and mitigation. Each phase is crucial in minimizing harm and ensuring effective recovery. The slide also highlights the importance of multidisciplinary disaster management teams, highlighting how different professionals work together to manage crises. A significant focus will be on the role of nurses in every stage, from preparedness and response to recovery and rehabilitation. We will delve into specific tasks such as triage, categorizing victims based on urgency, which is vital during large-scale emergencies. We'll also discuss how disaster plans are activated and coordinated, emphasizing community involvement and the importance of teamwork. Additionally, we'll cover principles of disaster management, the need for mental wellness support, and community disaster planning. Throughout, the goal is to understand how each element plays a part in effective disaster response and recovery, with a special focus on the critical role nurses play in saving lives and supporting communities during emergencies. Disaster management is a crucial component of our overall resilience strategy. It involves a comprehensive approach to preparing for, responding to, and recovering from various types of disasters. These can range from natural events like earthquakes and floods to human-made crises such as industrial accidents or cyberattacks. The key here is to minimize the impact of these events on people, infrastructure, and the economy. Effective disaster management requires coordination among multiple agencies and stakeholders, ensuring that everyone understands their roles and responsibilities. It's also about proactive planning, anticipating potential risks and putting measures in place beforehand. By doing so, we not only save lives but also reduce economic losses and facilitate faster recovery. This concept ties into our broader theme of building resilient systems and communities that can withstand and bounce back from adversity. When we talk about disaster, we're referring to any event that causes significant damage or disruption. This could be ecological damage, loss of human life, or a decline in health and health services. The key point here is the scale of the incident. It has to be large enough to require an extraordinary response from outside the affected community or area. Basically, when the impact is so severe that local resources and efforts aren't enough, and outside help is needed, we're dealing with a disaster. This definition from WHO in 1995 helps us understand the seriousness of such events and highlights why preparedness and effective response are so crucial. Let's start by understanding what we mean by disaster. A disaster is any event that causes significant damage or disruption. It could be damage to property, ecological disruption, or even the loss of human lives. It also includes deterioration of health and health services. What's important to note is that the scale of these events is such that they require an extraordinary response, not just from the local community, but often from outside help as well. This definition helps us grasp the seriousness of disasters and why effective preparedness and response are crucial in managing them. Throughout this presentation, we'll see how understanding this definition guides our strategies for mitigation and response. Now, let's take a closer look at the different types of disasters we might face. First, we have natural disasters, which include events like droughts, earthquakes, tsunamis, forest fires, landslides and mudslides, blizzards, hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, and volcanic disruptions. These are events that occur due to natural processes, often unpredictable, and can have devastating impacts on communities and the environment. On the other hand, we have man-made disasters. These are caused by human actions or negligence, and they include hazardous substance accidents such as chemical spills or toxic gases, radiologic accidents, dam failures, resource shortages like food, electricity, or water, structural fires and explosions, and domestic disturbances such as terrorism, bombings, or riots. Bioterrorism and explosions also fall into this category. Understanding the distinction between these types helps us better prepare for and respond to each scenario. Whether natural or man-made, the goal is to mitigate risks and protect lives and property by being aware of these different disaster types and their unique characteristics. Now, let's take a look at some of the major natural disasters that can have a profound impact on communities and environments. Starting with floods, which are among the most common and devastating, often caused by heavy rainfall or overflowing rivers. They can lead to widespread damage, displacing families and disrupting daily life. Next, we have droughts, which occur when there is a prolonged period of low rainfall. Droughts can severely affect agriculture, water supply, and even lead to food shortages. Cyclones, on the other hand, are powerful storm systems characterized by strong winds and heavy rain, often resulting in destruction of infrastructure and posing serious risks to life. And finally, earthquakes, which are sudden tremors caused by the shifting of tectonic plates beneath the Earth's surface. They can cause buildings to collapse, landslides, and loss of life in a matter of seconds. These natural disasters are interconnected parts of our environment's dynamic nature, and understanding them is crucial for developing effective response and mitigation strategies. They remind us of the importance of being prepared and resilient in the face of nature's unpredictable forces. Today, I want to talk about some minor natural disasters that can still have a significant impact on our lives. These include cold waves, heat waves, thunderstorms, and mudslides. While they might not always cause widespread destruction like major disasters, they can still be very disruptive and dangerous. Cold waves, for example, bring a sudden drop in temperature, which can lead to health issues like hypothermia or frostbite, especially for vulnerable populations. Heat waves, on the other hand, cause extreme heat that can result in heat strokes and dehydration. Thunderstorms are quite common and can bring heavy rain, lightning, and strong winds, often leading to localized flooding and power outages. Mudslides usually occur after heavy rain, especially in hilly or mountainous areas, where the soil becomes saturated and slides down slopes, damaging property and blocking roads. Recognizing these minor disasters is important because they remind us that even smaller-scale events require our attention and preparedness. By understanding these risks, we can better protect ourselves and our communities, contributing to the overall theme of resilience and proactive disaster management. Now, let's take a closer look at some major man-made disasters that have significantly impacted our environment. First, setting of fires, which can often be accidental but sometimes intentional, leads to widespread destruction of ecosystems and loss of biodiversity. Next, deforestation is a critical issue. It not only destroys habitats, but also contributes to climate change by reducing the number of trees that absorb carbon dioxide. Moving on, chemical pollution from industrial activities introduces harmful substances into our soil, water, and air, posing serious health risks. Then, there's the issue of epidemics, which, while primarily health concerns, can also have environmental impacts through increased waste and resource use during outbreaks. Pollution due to prawn cultivation is another example, often linked to aquaculture practices that can damage coastal ecosystems and disrupt local biodiversity. Wars, of course, are devastating not just for human populations, but also for the environment, causing land degradation, pollution, and destruction of natural resources. Each of these points highlights how human activities, when not managed responsibly, can lead to severe environmental crises, reinforcing the importance of sustainable practices to protect our planet. Let's talk about some minor man-made disasters that can still have significant impacts. These include road and train accidents, which happen quite frequently and can lead to injuries, fatalities, and disruptions in daily life. Riots are another example. While they might seem localized, they can cause chaos, damage property, and create fear within communities. Industrial disasters or crises are also part of this category. These can range from chemical spills to factory explosions, often resulting in environmental contamination and health hazards. Food poisoning is another concern, something that might seem small at first, but can affect many people quickly and highlight issues in food safety protocols. Lastly, environmental pollution, whether it's air, water, or soil pollution, falls under this category as well. These pollution issues might not always make headlines, but are crucial because they gradually degrade our environment, impacting our health and ecosystems over time. All of these minor disasters, though sometimes overlooked, tie into the larger picture of how human activities can disrupt safety and health. Recognizing them helps us better prepare and implement measures to prevent or mitigate their effects. Let's take a closer look at the principles of disaster management, as outlined by Grab and Eng in 1995. First, it's crucial to prevent the occurrence of the disaster whenever possible. Prevention is always better than cure, and it helps save lives before the disaster even happens. If prevention isn't entirely possible, our next goal is to minimize the number of casualties. We focus on reducing the impact and protecting as many lives as we can. After the initial impact, it's vital to prevent further casualties from occurring, which means acting swiftly and efficiently to contain the situation. Providing first aid to the injured is an immediate priority, stabilizing victims and ensuring they receive basic care right away. But beyond that, we need to provide definitive medical care, which involves more comprehensive treatment at medical facilities. Rescue operations are another key component, saving victims from dangerous or inaccessible areas. Once rescued, evacuating the injured to proper medical facilities becomes essential to ensure they get the specialized care they need. Finally, disaster management doesn't end with immediate relief. Promoting reconstruction of lives is a fundamental principle, helping communities recover, rebuild, and regain a sense of normalcy. These principles guide us through a structured approach, aiming to prevent, protect, rescue, and recover, making sure we're prepared to handle disasters effectively and compassionately. Let's talk about the epidemiology of disasters and the agents involved. The primary agents are those immediate causes of injury and destruction, such as falling buildings, extreme heat, strong winds, rising water levels, and smoke. These are the direct effects we often see during a disaster. Then there are secondary agents, which tend to develop after the initial event. These include bacteria and viruses that can cause contamination or infections, especially once the primary agent has caused damage or injury. Understanding these agents is crucial because it helps us anticipate the kinds of health risks that can arise and plan our response accordingly. Recognizing the primary agents allows us to focus on immediate safety measures, while awareness of secondary agents helps us prevent further health complications after the initial event. This ties into the overall theme of disaster preparedness and response, being ready not just for the initial impact, but also for the subsequent health challenges. Let's start by considering the human aspect in any situation. When we talk about the host, we're referring to the individual or people involved. Human factors are incredibly important because they directly influence the outcome. Things like age and sex can affect how someone responds to certain conditions or treatments. Immunization status is also crucial, as it determines how protected a person might be against specific diseases. Pre-existing health conditions play a big role too. They can either increase vulnerability or resilience. Mobility is another key factor. Someone who is more mobile might be better able to evacuate or seek help quickly. And lastly, emotional stability is vital because it influences how well a person can cope with stress or emergencies. All these elements remind us that understanding the human component helps us tailor our responses and improve overall safety. This aligns with the broader theme of comprehensive planning, considering every aspect of the host to ensure better management and outcomes. let's take a closer look at the various environmental factors that can impact a disaster situation. First, we have physical factors, which include weather conditions, the availability of food and water, and the functioning of utilities like electricity and telephone services. These elements are crucial because they directly affect the immediate needs and safety of those affected. Next, social factors play a significant role. These encompass the individual's support systems, such as family and community networks, as well as changes like the loss of family members, shifts in roles, and religious beliefs. These social elements can influence how people cope and recover after a disaster, and they are important to examine as part of the overall response. Moving on, chemical factors involve the potential leakage of stored chemicals into the environment, air, soil, groundwater, or food supplies. This contamination can pose serious health risks, so understanding chemical hazards is vital in disaster management. Then we have psychological factors. The emotional and mental distress experienced by victims at the disaster site is a key concern. Recognizing and addressing these psychological impacts is essential for supporting recovery and resilience. Finally, biological factors include issues like contaminated water, improper waste disposal, proliferation of insects or rodents, improper food storage, or lack of refrigeration due to interrupted electrical services. These biological threats can lead to disease outbreaks and worsen the health situation. All these factors, physical, social, chemical, psychological, and biological, are interconnected. They highlight the complexity of disaster environments and underscore why a comprehensive approach is essential in managing and mitigating their effects. Let's talk about the pre-impact phase. This is the very first stage of a disaster, and it's crucial because it happens before the actual event occurs. During this phase, warnings are issued, giving us a heads up that something might happen soon. This is the time when emergency centers are activated and prepared to respond quickly. Communication plays a vital role here. Radio, television, and other channels are used to relay alerts and updates. It's also essential that the community is educated about these warnings and what actions to take. By understanding this phase, we can better prepare ourselves and respond effectively, reducing potential damage and saving lives. This phase sets the foundation for managing the disaster efficiently. Now, let's talk about the impact phase. This is the period right at the time of the disaster itself. It's the moment when the event occurs and the immediate effects are felt. The impact phase continues until the threat of further destruction has passed, and importantly, until the emergency plan is fully in effect. During this time, establishing an Emergency Operations Center, or EOC, is crucial. This center becomes the command hub for coordinating response efforts. At the same time, providing both physical and psychological support is essential. People may be injured or traumatized, so addressing these needs quickly can make a big difference. Remember, this phase is about managing the immediate aftermath and setting the foundation for recovery. It's the critical window where effective response can significantly influence the overall outcome of the disaster management process. Now, let's talk about the post-impact phase. This is the period that begins during the emergency response, but it really extends into the longer term as recovery takes hold. The goal here is to restore normal community order and functioning, which is essential for people to start rebuilding their lives. However, it's important to recognize that for some individuals, especially those directly affected in the impact area, this phase can last a very long time, sometimes even a lifetime. An example of this is the victims of the atomic bombing of Hiroshima, whose recovery journey spans decades. This highlights how recovery isn't just a short-term process. It's a long-term commitment, especially for those most affected. Understanding this helps us appreciate the importance of sustained support and resources well beyond the initial emergency. Now, let's take a closer look at the phases of disaster management. As we see here, disaster management is typically divided into several key phases that help us prepare for, respond to, and recover from emergencies effectively. The first phase is prevention and mitigation, where our goal is to reduce risks and minimize the impact of disasters before they occur. This can include measures like building codes, land use planning, and public education. Next is preparedness, which involves planning and training so that everyone knows their roles and actions to take when a disaster strikes. Preparedness ensures a swift and organized response, saving lives and reducing damage. The third phase is response, where immediate actions are taken to protect lives and property during the disaster. This includes rescue operations, medical aid, and providing shelter. Finally, we have recovery, which focuses on restoring the community to normalcy after the event. Recovery can be a long process, involving rebuilding infrastructure, offering psychological support, and learning from the incident to improve future responses. These phases are interconnected and form a continuous cycle aimed at building resilience and reducing the overall impact of disasters. Understanding and effectively managing these phases is crucial to our overall disaster management strategy. Now let's talk about preparedness, which is a crucial part of effectively responding to disasters. First, on a personal level, disaster workers often face stress and conflict. It's important to recognize these feelings and develop strategies to manage them, so we can stay focused and effective in our roles. Moving on to professional preparedness, there are some key items we need to ensure we're ready. This includes maintaining our licenses and having the necessary equipment, such as personal gear like a stethoscope, a flashlight with extra batteries, and cash for emergencies. Wearing warm clothing or weather-appropriate attire, especially in cold environments, is vital. Additionally, keeping record-keeping materials handy and carrying pocket-sized reference books can make a big difference in staying organized and informed during response efforts. Finally, community preparedness is about participation. Being actively involved in community planning and drills helps strengthen our collective resilience. The more engaged we are, the better prepared our entire community will be to face disasters together. So remember, preparedness isn't just about individual readiness. It's about building a connected, resilient community that can respond effectively when it matters most. Now, let's talk about the role in preparedness within the employing organization. Essentially, it's about taking proactive steps to ensure we're ready for disasters. This means helping to initiate or update our disaster plan, making sure it's current and effective. It's also important to provide educational programs and materials that are specific to the types of disasters most likely to affect our area. By doing so, we equip everyone with the knowledge they need to respond appropriately. Lastly, organizing disaster drills plays a crucial role. These drills give us a practical way to practice our responses, identify gaps, and reinforce good habits. All of these efforts are vital in creating a prepared and resilient organization that can effectively navigate emergencies. Now, let's talk about the role of the community health nurse. One of their key responsibilities is to maintain an up-to-date record of vulnerable populations within the community. This means regularly identifying and monitoring those who may need extra support, whether due to health issues, socioeconomic factors, or other challenges. It's also crucial that these individualized strategies are reviewed regularly. The nurse needs to ensure that the specific resources available to each vulnerable individual or group are current and accessible. This includes knowing what emergency resources are on hand, so that in a crisis, the community can respond quickly and effectively. By doing this, the nurse helps create a more resilient community, one that can better withstand emergencies because the most at-risk populations are clearly identified and supported. This approach ties directly into our overall theme of proactive, community-centered care, emphasizing the importance of preparation and tailored support to improve health outcomes for everyone. Having an intimate knowledge of the institution is absolutely essential. It means understanding the ins and outs of how things operate, as well as being familiar with the people who work there. When you know the environment and the team members well, you can respond more effectively during a crisis. It's also important to highlight that persons with disaster management training are particularly valuable. They bring specialized skills and knowledge that can make a real difference when time is of the essence. And perhaps most importantly, Those who have been through actual disasters, real emergencies, bring a level of experience that can't be learned from textbooks alone. They've seen what works and what doesn't in high-pressure situations. So, in building a strong preparedness team, look for individuals who have both the relevant training and practical experience. They can be key contributors to the overall resilience of the institution. This aligns perfectly with our theme of creating comprehensive, effective disaster response plans. As a community advocate, it's so important to always prioritize maintaining a safe environment for everyone. Remember, disasters don't always come from natural events. Many are man-made, like pollution or hazardous waste. As nurses working in the community, we have a duty to be vigilant about these risks. That means we need to assess our environment carefully, looking out for potential hazards that could harm the community. And it's just as important to report these hazards promptly so they can be addressed before they cause harm. By doing this, we're not only protecting individual health, but also strengthening the overall safety of the community. This role ties directly into our broader goal of promoting health and resilience in the populations we serve. Let's talk about the resources available in our community after a disaster. It's crucial to understand what support systems will be accessible, and more importantly, how everyone in the community will work together during such times. Planning ahead about what should happen before, during, and after a disaster helps ensure a coordinated response. This includes knowing your role within the plan and how you can contribute effectively. For community health nurses who want to get more involved or gain a deeper understanding of disaster management, there's a lot of opportunity. You can become part of various community organizations that are integral to the official response efforts. Groups like the Red Cross, Salvation Army, or Emergency Medical System and Ambulance Corps are excellent avenues for involvement. Getting involved in these organizations not only broadens your understanding, but also strengthens the community's overall resilience. Remember, disaster response is a team effort, and your active participation can make a real difference. Now let's talk about the response phase. This is a critical part of managing a public health situation. It includes several key activities, starting with community assessment. By evaluating the needs and resources within the community, we can better tailor our interventions. Next, case finding and referring are essential. Identifying cases early and referring individuals to the appropriate services helps contain the situation and ensures people get the help they need. Prevention and health education also play vital roles. They help us reduce the spread and inform the community about how to stay safe. Surveillance is another crucial component. Keeping track of trends and data allows us to monitor the situation in real time and adjust our strategies accordingly. Working with aggregates or groups within the community helps us implement targeted interventions more effectively. Finally, it's important to note that local and regional emergency and public health resources are flexible. As assessment reports come in, these resources can be readjusted to better meet the evolving needs of the situation. Overall, a dynamic and responsive approach is key to effective public health management. Let's talk about shelter management first. This is primarily the responsibility of the local Red Cross. They are tasked with building tent cities to provide immediate shelter for those affected. Their work involves assessing the needs of the displaced, referring individuals to appropriate services, and making sure medical needs are met. They also provide first aid on the spot, serve meals to those in need, and keep detailed patient records. Ensuring effective emergency communications and transportation is crucial, so help can reach those who need it quickly. And of course, creating a safe environment is always a top priority. Moving on to international relief efforts, key organizations include the Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, as well as the International Committee of the Red Cross. Sometimes health representatives from the WHO also get involved. These groups coordinate resources and expertise across borders to support disaster response and recovery. Now, let's consider the psychological stress faced by disaster workers. The level of stress they experience can vary widely, depending on factors like the severity and nature of the disaster, their specific roles, and their personal stamina. It's important to recognize that their mental health is just as vital as their physical safety. Environmental factors play a big role in that stress too. Noise, limited workspace, physical dangers, and constant stimuli overload can all contribute to high stress levels. These conditions can lead to mood swings, frustration, and even conflicts among team members. Understanding and managing these factors is essential to maintaining an effective and resilient response effort. Now, let's talk about disaster recovery and the key components involved. First, flexibility is essential. We need to adapt quickly to changing circumstances and needs on the ground. Next, teaching proper hygiene is crucial. It helps prevent the spread of disease and keeps communities healthier. Home visits also play a vital role. They allow us to assess individual needs and provide tailored support directly where people live. Community cleanup efforts are another important aspect, as they help restore sanitation and safety, fostering a sense of normalcy. Short-term psychological support is equally critical, offering mental health assistance to those affected by trauma and stress. Then, there's the release of continuing threats, identifying and addressing ongoing dangers to ensure safety. Lastly, we must stay alert for environmental health hazards, like contaminated water or air pollution, which can pose additional risks during recovery. All these elements are interconnected and essential for a comprehensive recovery process, helping communities rebuild stronger and more resilient for the future. When it comes to mitigation, it's essential that we work closely with local, state, and federal agencies. By collaborating with these groups, we can better identify the specific disaster risks our community faces. This partnership helps us develop targeted disaster prevention strategies, which are crucial for reducing harm before a disaster occurs. A key part of this process is extensive public education, making sure our community understands how to prevent disasters and how to be prepared for them. As nurses, we need to gather thorough community assessment information. This includes knowing what resources are available, like emergency services, hospitals, and clinics, so we can utilize them effectively when needed. We also need to be familiar with the community health personnel, nurses, doctors, pharmacists, emergency medical teams, dentists, and volunteers, so we understand who can support disaster response efforts. Additionally, engaging with community government officials and local industry is vital for coordinated planning. All of these elements, resources, personnel, government, and industry, are interconnected. By understanding and leveraging them, we can plan more effectively for disaster prevention, ultimately protecting our community better. This approach aligns with our overall goal of enhancing community resilience through proactive and informed strategies. Now, let's take a closer look at the Disaster Management Committee. At the top, we have the chairman, who is the medical superintendent or director. This person oversees the entire committee and ensures that all disaster response plans are coordinated effectively. Supporting the chairman, there's the additional medical superintendent and the chief medical officer, particularly involved in casualty management during emergencies. We also have heads of key departments such as surgery, medicine, orthopedics, radiology, anesthesiology, and neurosurgery. Their expertise is crucial for providing specialized medical support during disasters. Security officers play a vital role in maintaining safety and order within the facility, while the nursing superintendent or chief nursing officer ensures that patient care and nursing protocols are upheld. The transport officer is responsible for logistics and movement, ensuring that transportation needs are met swiftly and efficiently. The blood bank in charge manages blood supplies, which are often critical in emergency situations. Finally, sanitary personnel are essential for maintaining hygiene and preventing infections, which is always vital during any disaster response. Together, this committee forms a well-rounded team, ready to coordinate and respond effectively to any disaster scenario, aligning with our overall goal of ensuring safety and continuity of care. Now, let's take a closer look at the multidisciplinary disaster management team. As you can see, It involves a wide range of professionals, each bringing their own expertise to the table. We have physicians, who are critical for medical assessment and treatment, and nurses, who provide essential patient care on the ground. Politicians play a key role in coordinating resources and policy decisions during a disaster. Surgeons are vital when surgical interventions are needed urgently. Fire service personnel handle rescue operations and fire management. NGOs, or non-governmental organizations, contribute additional support, resources, and relief efforts. Safety officers ensure that safety standards are maintained throughout all activities. This team also includes psychologists, who address mental health needs, and orthopedic specialists for injury management. Police are essential for maintaining security and order, while chaplains provide spiritual and emotional support. Social workers assist with community reintegration and social services, and paraprofessionals support the team with various auxiliary roles. The key point here is that effective disaster management relies on a coordinated, multidisciplinary approach. Each member plays a vital role, and their collaboration ensures a comprehensive response to complex emergencies. This teamwork aligns with our overall theme of preparedness and resilience, emphasizing that no single profession can handle disaster response alone. Instead, it's the combined efforts of this diverse team that makes a real difference in saving lives and restoring communities. Shimdi, a fedalid salishan bur hemshirnin sahip almasi, jerikan ernamli nightlickler de ginisejum. Bunlarden ilki, ishberligi. Burlicht salishmak, ekip isend iam saglamak sok ernamli. Contral ise, hisli v dogru karoler alabalmek anlamina jellier. Gusvi karolilik, zor zamanlarda ayekta kalmamizi sagler. Kendamizi aleshterbilmek v jelishmek isen bu sok de jurli. Soramluluk v hesap varibilerlik, mesleki edik assasinden temel tashler imizdir. Baglalik v insan hayatinin kamtini bilmek, her zaman plando almali. Guven, hem haysteller hem de ekapel guven ilishkisi kermamiz de anater ral oinar. Zorlaklara karshi dayanikli almek v einis amanda hassasiat gerstermek, denjdi kermamizi sagler. Coordination v leiderlik ise, etkin v iam luber salishma isen shart. Nazik v adanmish almek, haystelara v ekip arkadashlarim is a karshi sagi v sevgial yaklishmak ernamli. Bajamlilik v takim ruhu ise, zorlaklarin ustasinden gelmamizi kale lashtarir. Bu erzalikaler, a fedalid salishan hemshirlerin bashari hikyesanin temel tashlaridir. Tum bunler, genel olarak, insan hayatini koruma v yardim etmi misyanumuzu daha etkali hail getirir. Let's talk about the role of nursing in disasters. Disaster preparedness is absolutely vital, and this includes conducting thorough risk assessments and developing management strategies that involve multiple disciplines. It's important to remember that these strategies need to be implemented at all levels of the health system. By doing so, we can ensure that we're prepared to respond effectively to the immediate, medium-term, and long-term health needs of populations affected by disasters. Nurses play a critical role here, as they are often on the front lines, coordinating care, providing essential services, and adapting to changing situations. Ultimately, strong preparedness and strategic management are key to delivering effective responses and helping communities recover. Let's talk about the role of a nurse in disaster mitigation, starting with diagnosing community disaster threats. First, it's important to assess whether the community is aware of potential hazards and prepared for them. This involves understanding their level of awareness and preparedness. Next, we need to identify the actual and potential disaster threats that could impact the community so we can plan effectively. Moving on, we should evaluate if there are any collaborative activities already underway within the community. Are different groups working together to address disaster risks? This teamwork is crucial for a comprehensive response. Additionally, we must look into the effectiveness of the community-based disaster plan. Are the strategies in place working well? Community awareness and participation are key. When residents understand their risks and are actively involved, mitigation efforts become much more effective. Finally, ensuring that preventive measures are being taken care of is vital. These are the steps that reduce the impact of disasters before they happen. In essence, as nurses, Our role is to diagnose these threats, foster community awareness, promote participation, and support the implementation of preventive measures. All these elements work together to build a resilient community prepared to face disasters. Let's discuss the crucial role of a nurse in disaster preparedness. First, understanding the chain of authority is essential, as it ensures clear communication and efficient decision-making during a crisis. Mobilization refers to quickly organizing resources and personnel to respond effectively. Rescue and recovery are immediate priorities, involving saving lives and restoring stability. Supporting victims and their families is also vital, offering emotional and physical assistance throughout the process. Lines of communication must be maintained at all times to coordinate efforts and disseminate information accurately. Warning systems are critical for alerting the community about impending dangers, allowing timely action. Triage helps prioritize care based on urgency, ensuring that those with the most critical needs receive attention first. Personal preparedness is equally important. Nurses should be trained and ready to face disaster situations confidently. Care of dead bodies requires respect and proper handling, adhering to health protocols. A good understanding of the community's specific needs and resources enhances response effectiveness. Capacity building involves training and preparing oneself and others to handle various emergency scenarios. Modes of transport must be efficient and suitable for different terrains and conditions. Knowledge about policies and protocols guides action within legal and organizational frameworks. Recognizing the different types of disasters and their management strategies enables tailored responses. The equation of treatment focuses on providing the best possible care under the circumstances. Disaster worker rehabilitation is necessary to support responders' mental and physical well-being after intense experiences. Being ready to work in a multidisciplinary team fosters collaboration and comprehensive care. Strong communication skills are fundamental for effective teamwork and community engagement. Certification as a first aider and proficiency in CPR are essential skills that can save lives immediately. In summary, a nurse's role in disaster preparedness is multifaceted, covering everything from leadership and communication to direct care and community support, making us vital components in effective disaster management. Failure to plan is planning to fail, and that's why activating our disaster management plans is so critical. On this slide, we see several key steps to ensure we're prepared. First, developing a standard operating procedure is essential. It provides clear guidance on how to act during a disaster, ensuring everyone knows their roles and responsibilities. Next, documentation at the control room is vital. Having all the necessary information readily available helps us respond quickly and effectively. The reception area, which doubles as the disaster control room, serves as the central hub for coordinating efforts. Public relations also play a crucial role. They help manage communication with the public and media, keeping everyone informed and maintaining trust. Implementing a triage system allows us to prioritize victims based on the severity of their injuries, which is vital in managing resources efficiently. Lastly, crowd management is key to ensuring safety, preventing panic, and facilitating orderly evacuation or movement. When we connect all these points, it's clear that a well-activated disaster management plan creates a coordinated, efficient response that minimizes chaos and saves lives. Let's take a closer look at the role of a nurse in disaster impact and response. On this slide, you'll see a set of core principles that serve as a framework for managing any kind of emergency or disaster situation. These principles are essential because they help ensure a coordinated and effective response. First, we have command. This is about establishing clear leadership and decision-making structures so everyone knows who's in charge. Next is communication, which is absolutely vital, ensuring information flows efficiently between all parties involved. Capability refers to the skills and resources we have at our disposal, and control involves maintaining oversight of the situation to prevent chaos and confusion. Clinical management is about delivering appropriate care to those affected, adapting to the unique needs of each patient under stressful circumstances. Coordination is the next key point, making sure all agencies and teams work together seamlessly. And finally, continuity emphasizes maintaining ongoing care and support, even as the situation evolves. Together, these principles create a solid foundation for nurses to effectively respond to disasters, protect lives, and support communities through challenging times. They remind us that professionalism, preparedness, and teamwork are crucial in every aspect of disaster response. When a disaster strikes, nurses play a crucial role in assessing the situation right from the start. The first step is to determine the magnitude of the event. Understanding how big and severe the disaster is helps us plan effectively. Next, we need to identify both the actual and potential public health problems that may arise. This means looking ahead as well as reacting to what's happening now and defining the specific health needs of the affected communities. Once we understand the scope and needs, we can determine what resources are necessary to respond appropriately, whether it's manpower, medical supplies, or equipment. Throughout this process, maintaining a unified chain of command is essential. Clear communication and coordination ensure everyone is on the same page and working toward common goals. Establishing priorities is also key. Deciding what needs immediate attention versus what can wait helps us manage resources efficiently. Collaboration with other professional disciplines, as well as governmental and non-governmental agencies, amplifies our capacity to respond effectively. All these steps are interconnected and vital for a successful disaster response. By focusing on these tasks, nurses ensure that the response is organized, effective, and ultimately saves more lives. This holistic approach aligns with our overarching goal, providing the best possible care during times of crisis. In the immediate aftermath of a disaster, our role as nurses is crucial in providing urgent interventions. First, we focus on psychological support to help individuals cope with trauma and fear. Establishing safety is also a priority, ensuring that affected people feel secure and protected. We set up voluntary reception areas and relatives' waiting zones to facilitate communication and reduce chaos. Life-saving measures and first aid are essential at this stage, addressing injuries and preventing further harm. We also need to develop outreach programs to offer ongoing community support, helping to rebuild trust and resilience. Managing infection control is vital to prevent outbreaks, especially in crowded or unsanitary conditions. Medical treatment and nursing care are tailored to each person's needs, whether it's managing chronic conditions or addressing new health issues. Evacuation and supply management involve organizing shelters, ensuring access to food, water, medicine, and maintaining communication channels. Reviving post-disaster stress involves providing mental health support to help individuals process their experiences. Referral services become necessary when cases require specialized treatment beyond our scope. We must also maximize the use of available resources efficiently to meet the community's needs. Maintaining public morale is key, encouraging hope and cooperation. Additionally, promoting ventilation helps reduce the risk of infection spread. All these actions, as part of our comprehensive response, are vital in helping communities recover and rebuild after a disaster. En esta diapositiva, vamos a hablar sobre el papel del enfermero en la primera ayuda emocional, especialmente frente a diferentes trastornos psiquiátricos que pueden surgir después de una crisis o desastre. Entre estos trastornos encontramos reacciones de estrés agudo, trastorno de estrés postraumático, trastornos de angst, trastornos depresivos, psicosis aguda, trastornos disociativos, trastornos de ansiedad, pensamientos suicidas, cambios en la personalidad, y también la intervención en crisis. Es fundamental que el enfermero establezca un contacto efectivo con la persona afectada. Esto implica cuidar sus necesidades físicas básicas, pero también comunicarse con ellos de manera empática y tranquila. En algunos casos, puede ser necesario el uso de medicamentos como sedantes para calmar la situación. Otra parte clave es la supervisión constante, asegurando de que la persona esté ventilada y en un ambiente seguro. Es importante también realizar reuniones informativas para brindarles claridad y tranquilidad. Además, debemos animar a la persona a hablar sobre lo que ocurrió, fomentando la expresión de sus sentimientos y experiencias. Esto es vital para su proceso de recuperación emocional. Finalmente, el manejo del comportamiento social es esencial. La persona puede presentar dificultades en sus relaciones o en su comportamiento, y nuestro rol es apoyarlos en esa reintegración, promoviendo un ambiente de apoyo y comprensión. En resumen, la intervención del enfermero en la primera ayuda emocional es integral. Desde atender las necesidades físicas hasta facilitar la expresión emocional y promover la recuperación social y psicológica. Now, let's discuss the role of a nurse during the recovery, rehabilitation, and reconstruction phases after a disaster. Our main goal here is to restore the pre-disaster condition as much as possible, helping communities rebuild and recover. One of the critical aspects is ensuring that food supply and safety are maintained, because nutrition is vital for healing and overall health. Surveillance and prevention of epidemic outbreaks are also key, as disasters often lead to increased risk of infectious diseases, so vigilant monitoring is essential. Vaccination plays a crucial role too, especially in protecting vulnerable populations against preventable illnesses. Controlling vectors, such as mosquitoes or rodents, helps reduce the spread of diseases like malaria or dengue. Counseling is another important element, providing psychological support and guidance to both survivors and their families during this challenging time. Ensuring a safe and reliable water supply is fundamental, as clean water is essential for hydration, hygiene, and preventing waterborne diseases. Caring for survivors involves not just addressing physical injuries, but also supporting their emotional well-being. Finally, behavior modification strategies can help promote healthier practices and resilience within the community, fostering a sense of empowerment and preparedness for future challenges. All of these efforts come together to support the overall goal of helping communities recover and rebuild stronger than before. Now, let's talk about the process of reconstruction. The first step is setting up shelter, which is absolutely vital to provide safety and stability for those affected. Once the shelter is in place, we focus on education, ensuring that people, especially children and students, have access to learning opportunities even in challenging times. Next, we need to address health, food, and essential facilities on the campus. This means establishing clinics, providing nutritious food, and ensuring basic amenities are available to support well-being. Finally, training plays a crucial role, training people, students, and volunteers so they can actively participate in recovery efforts and sustain the community. All these steps are interconnected and essential for a successful reconstruction, helping communities rebuild stronger and more resilient after a crisis. When a major disaster strikes, one of the most immediate concerns for those affected is knowing the whereabouts of their loved ones. It's natural for people to seek reassurance and clarity. Typically, about 1 to 3% of those impacted might need extra help to cope with the emotional aftermath. It's really important to provide clear, simple answers to their questions, so they don't become overwhelmed or confused. In cases where someone has been lost, it's crucial to give them space to grieve. Allow them time and a safe environment to process their feelings. Connecting them with family, friends, or local healers can offer essential encouragement and support during this difficult time. We also often overlook children in these situations, but their needs are just as important. In the shelter, we should aim to create a space where children feel safe and secure, perhaps with designated play areas or quiet zones. Most children tend to recover emotionally within about 2 weeks, but it's vital to listen carefully to what they say and observe their behavior. Always remember, children's feelings are valid, and acknowledging them helps in their healing process. By paying attention and offering support, we can help them navigate their emotions and begin to feel normal again. Now, let's talk about triage, which is all about categorizing patients based on the urgency of their condition. When we see a red tag, that indicates the most urgent cases that need our immediate attention. These are our first priorities. Moving on, the yellow category represents patients who are urgent but not as critical as the red ones. These are our second priority. Then we have green, which is third priority. These are patients with less urgent needs, often stable enough to wait a little longer. Finally, the black category is for those who are dying or already deceased. Recognizing these categories quickly and accurately is essential in managing resources effectively and providing the best care possible during a crisis. It ties back to our overall goal of efficient, prioritized response in emergency situations. Now, let's talk about why disaster triage is so essential. Triage is all about quickly assessing and classifying injured individuals based on how severe their injuries are and how likely they are to survive with prompt medical care. In a disaster situation, resources are often stretched thin, and time is critical. So, being able to rapidly identify who needs urgent attention and who can wait helps us prioritize effectively. This way, we can ensure that those with the greatest chance of survival receive the care they need immediately, ultimately saving more lives and making our response more efficient. Triage is a key component in managing chaos and ensuring that every patient gets the best possible chance at recovery. Now, let's take a look at the advantages of triage. First, it helps to bring order and organization to even the most chaotic scenes. When there's chaos, triage provides a clear structure, helping responders prioritize and manage the situation effectively. Next, it makes those difficult decisions a lot easier. By systematically assessing patients, we can quickly determine who needs immediate care and who can wait, which is crucial in emergency situations. Third, triage identifies and provides care to those who are in the greatest need. This ensures that resources are directed where they are most essential, potentially saving more lives. And finally, it assures that our resources are used in the most effective manner. This means we're not wasting time or supplies on less critical cases, but focusing on those who need it the most. Overall, these advantages of triage are fundamental to delivering efficient, effective emergency response and ensuring that everyone receives the care they need as quickly as possible. Now, let's talk about who actually decides in triage situations. It's important to understand that nurses don't act out of fear of legal repercussions or being blamed for patient deaths, which can sometimes complicate decision-making. Additionally, there's often a lack of clarity about where nurses fit within the overall command structure during emergencies. What's crucial to remember is that nurses operate based on their training and experience. Their decisions are guided by their expertise and the scope of their practice. And here's an important point. If the nurses on site happen to be the most trained personnel available, then they are essentially the ones in charge of triage decisions. Recognizing this helps us understand the leadership roles in emergency response and how critical it is to empower nurses to act confidently within their training. This ties back to our overall theme. Effective emergency response relies on clear roles and trusting the expertise of those on the front lines. When we see a red tag, it means the situation is most urgent and is our first priority. These are cases involving life-threatening injuries that require immediate attention. For example, shock, chest wounds, internal hemorrhages, and head injuries that cause increased loss of consciousness are critical. Also, partial or full-thickness burns covering over 20% up to 60% of the body surface are extremely serious, as well as chest pain indicating potential internal problems. The key thing to remember is that these injuries carry a poor chance of survival if not addressed promptly. So, in our overall response, identifying these red tag cases quickly can make all the difference in saving lives. Let's talk about the yellow category, which is urgent but still a second priority. These are injuries that have systemic effects or complications, but notably, the patient isn't in shock yet. The good news is, with proper care, these patients can usually withstand 30 to 60 minutes before they need more advanced intervention. Examples of such injuries include multiple fractures and open fractures, which involve broken bones exposed through the skin. Spinal injuries are also in this category, along with large lacerations, cuts that are deep and extensive. Additionally, partial or full-thickness burns over 10 to 20% of the body surface area are included here. These are serious burns, but not immediately life-threatening if managed correctly. We also see medical emergencies like diabetic coma, insulin shock, and epileptic seizures. These conditions require prompt attention, but aren't immediately life-threatening if we act within that critical 30 to 60-minute window. Understanding this category helps us prioritize effectively, recognizing which injuries need urgent attention, but can still wait a little while before definitive treatment. It's all about balancing immediate response with the overall management of the patient's condition. All right, let's talk about the green priority, which is the third level. This category is for injuries that are minimal and not accompanied by any systemic complications. Essentially, these are cases where the patient is stable and not in immediate danger. In these situations, it's best to wait several hours before starting treatment. This allows us to prioritize more urgent cases first while still keeping an eye on the patient. Examples of green priority injuries include closed fractures, minor burns, minor lacerations, sprains, contusions, and abrasions. These are injuries that, although needing care, are generally less severe and don't require immediate intervention. Understanding this helps us organize our response efficiently, ensuring that those with life-threatening conditions receive attention first, while still providing appropriate care for less critical cases. When we see black on the triage tag, it indicates a patient who is either dying or already dead. These are individuals who are hopelessly injured or have unfortunately lost their lives. Common causes include severe crushing injuries to critical areas like the head or chest. Such injuries are often unsurvivable, even under the best circumstances. It's essential to recognize these signs quickly so we can focus our efforts on patients with a better chance of survival, ensuring resources are used appropriately in emergency situations. Now, let's talk about the crucial role of community coordination and involvement. First, psychological care plays a vital part in helping victims and their families process what they've been through. It's about providing a safe space for them to express their feelings and begin healing. Next, emotional support services are equally important. These are the ongoing or immediate support systems that help sustain hope and resilience within the community, ensuring nobody feels isolated during difficult times. Finally, treatment for victims and their families is essential. This involves not only addressing the immediate health needs, but also offering long-term support to help them rebuild their lives. Overall, engaging the community in these ways creates a strong support network that enhances recovery and resilience, which ties directly into our overall theme of comprehensive disaster response and recovery. Let's take a moment to assess the community as a whole. First, we want to ask ourselves, is there a current community disaster plan in place? Having a solid plan is essential for coordinated and effective response efforts. Next, we should consider the community's previous disaster experiences. Have there been local, statewide, or even national events that the community has been involved with? Understanding past incidents can help us identify vulnerabilities and strengths. It's also important to look at the local terrain. Is the land conducive to disaster formation? For example, areas prone to flooding or landslides due to their geography require specific precautions. We should also evaluate the local industries. Are there industries that might be particularly vulnerable during a disaster? Knowing this helps tailor our preparedness measures accordingly. Finally, consider the local climate. Does the climate promote certain types of disasters, like hurricanes, droughts, or severe storms? Recognizing these factors allows us to develop more targeted and effective disaster response strategies. Remember, assessing all these aspects is a vital step in building a resilient community and ensuring we're prepared for anything that might come our way. Let's talk about community disaster planning. First, it's crucial to develop a comprehensive disaster plan that addresses potential threats we might face. This plan helps us prevent issues where possible and respond effectively when disasters occur. Next, we need to identify all the disaster personnel involved. This includes not just emergency responders and local agencies, but also private and professional volunteers. Knowing who will be involved is key to a coordinated response. We also have to assign clear responsibilities to each person involved. Establishing a disaster chain of command ensures everyone knows their role and how to act during a crisis. Communication is vital, so we must identify a reliable local community communication system that keeps everyone informed. Finally, we should identify regional backup agencies and personnel who can step in if our primary resources are overwhelmed or unavailable. Connecting all these elements, personnel, responsibilities, communication, and backups, creates a resilient community disaster response. This comprehensive planning aligns with our overall goal of building a safer, more prepared community for any disaster we might face. Let's talk about implementing a disaster plan effectively. The first step is focusing on primary prevention activities to prevent the occurrence of man-made disasters in the first place. This means identifying risks early and taking proactive measures to reduce those risks. Next, it's crucial to practice using the equipment and to regularly obtain and distribute supplies so that everyone knows their role and can act swiftly when needed. Practice makes perfect, as they say, and running through these drills helps us identify any gaps or inefficiencies in our plans. We should also critically evaluate all aspects of our disaster plans and practice drills. This involves looking at how quickly and effectively we respond, pinpointing any weaknesses, and making necessary revisions. Continuous improvement is key to staying prepared. Evaluating how our personnel respond during disaster relief efforts is equally important. Their performance under pressure can make a big difference, so we need to assess and support their readiness. Another vital step is practicing our community disaster plans with all involved personnel. Everyone should understand their specific responsibilities so that during an actual event, actions are coordinated and seamless. Finally, we need to evaluate the overall effectiveness of our disaster plan. This includes assessing the impact of a disaster on the community and surrounding regions. Understanding the aftermath helps us refine our strategies and better prepare for future incidents. Remember, the goal is to be proactive, prepared, and adaptable to protect our communities effectively. Now, let's look at how the health sector plays a vital role in rehabilitation. One key aspect is community cleanup efforts, which help improve living conditions and reduce health risks. Home visits are also essential. They allow health workers to assess individual needs and provide tailored support. Teaching proper hygiene practices is another critical component. This helps prevent the spread of diseases and promotes overall well-being. Follow-up care ensures that recovery is sustained and that any health issues are properly addressed over time. Lastly, staying alert to environmental health hazards is crucial, as it allows us to identify and mitigate risks that could impact the community's health. All these actions together form a comprehensive approach to rehabilitation, reinforcing the overall goal of creating healthier, safer environments for everyone.